So today, we're going to dive into a really powerful way of thinking about learning and personal growth, a metaphor that might just change how you see your own progress. Let's get right into it. This idea right here from Socrates is the heart of everything we're talking about today. It gives us two totally different ways to look at ourselves. Are we just an empty bucket waiting for someone to pour knowledge into us? Or are we something that can be set on fire? Okay, so let's break this down. The vessel idea, you can see why it's so appealing, right? It feels neat, it's measurable, you can count the degrees, the certificates, the books on your shelf. It seems like a task you can actually finish. But the flame? That's a whole different game. It's not about collecting things, it's about becoming something different. It's transformative. A fire spreads, it changes everything it touches, and honestly, its potential is limitless. And you know, this whole flame idea, it's not just for learning facts and figures. It's an incredible way to understand our own emotions, especially the really intense ones. You know, our inner fire. Now, this is some pretty wild advice. Think about it. We're usually told one of two things about anger. Either push it down and ignore it, or let it all out. But this suggests a third way. To see that powerful, fiery energy not as a problem to be solved, but as fuel to be transformed. So how do you actually do that? Well, it boils down to this three-step process. You have to acknowledge the fire. Don't try to stamp it out. But you also can't just let it run wild and burn everything down. The real magic, the real work, happens in step 3, where you take that heat and you channel it into something useful, something constructive. It's like you're your own internal alchemist. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. If you want to change anything, whether it's your own anger or the world around you, you have to start with your own flame. It's the only one you've actually got control over. Okay, so if we're really buying into this flame metaphor, there's a pretty tough truth we have to face. This work, it never really ends. There's no finish line. Robert Greene really gets to the core of it here. It's so easy to look at a master and think, wow, they were just born with it, right? We love this myth of the effortless genius, of fire that just burns bright all on its own. But that's not how it works. The reality is that mastery comes from constantly, relentlessly tending to the flame. All the practice, the boring routines, the self-doubt, that's the fuel. And when you boil it all down, this is what it's about. It's not about having some magical spark of brilliance nobody else has. It's about the humble, patient, day in, day out work of just showing up and adding one more log to the fire. And here's a really cool kind of paradoxical way to think about all that effort from Naval Ravikant. Be impatient with your actions. Move fast, get it done, put in the work now. But be incredibly patient with the results. Act with a sense of urgency, but then let go and allow the outcomes to happen when they're ready. But here's the thing. It's not just about brute force. It's not just throwing logs on the fire. Tending the flame is an art. It's about having the right mindset. And believe it or not, it's also about knowing when to just let it be. This point from David Schwartz is just so important. It flies right in the face of that filling a vessel model. You could have a mind packed with facts, a vessel overflowing with information. But if your attitude is off, if the thinking that guides all that intelligence is pointed in the wrong direction, all that knowledge just sits there. It's useless. Which really makes you stop and ask yourself, right? Is your mind an active participant in life, creating things, solving problems, building something new? Or is it just a passive observer, just recording what happens? You have the same amount of mental energy either way. The question is, how are you using it? Okay, but with all this talk about work, we need to talk about the flip side. George MacDonald introduces this beautiful, almost forgotten idea of sacred idleness. In our world that is just obsessed with being busy all the time, this is a lost art. And just to be super clear, sacred idleness isn't about binge watching a show or just being lazy. This is strategic. It's a deliberate choice to be empty for a while. It's like a farmer letting a field rest for a season so the soil can get its nutrients back. You know, if you just keep stoking a fire relentlessly, you can actually smother it. Sometimes the best thing you can do for a flame is to give it a little space to breathe. So you might be asking, why go through all this trouble? Why do all this inner work? Well, it turns out it's not just about you. It's about the light you can pass on to other people. I mean, Picasso just says it perfectly here. The real test of your inner flame isn't just about how bright it feels to you. It's about whether your light can help kindle a flame in someone else. That's where the real impact is.
And this right here from Ryan Holiday, it just grounds the whole idea in something so real and so important. One of the biggest ways we pass on the light is just by being present. When you stop doing your important work to just be with your kids, you're sending a powerful message. You're kindling a fire of love and security in them that will last a lifetime.
But, we have to be careful, because just as easily as we can light a good fire, we can also start a destructive one. This little story is such a sharp and witty reminder of that. When we gossip, we're not just passing information. We're often taking our creative energy and using it to add fuel to a fire that doesn't warm anyone or light anything up. It just burns. So we've talked about the work, the rest, how we affect others. Where does that leave us? Let's wrap up with a final thought on how to approach this whole thing, day by day. And look, this isn't just some feel-good, optimistic platitude. This is a genuine strategy. It's a discipline. It's the daily practice of waking up and seeing today as a completely fresh start to tend your flame. Yesterday's screw-ups, they're not proof that the fire is out. They're just lessons that show you where you might need to place the kindling today.
And so that's the question I want to leave you with. It's not about how smart you are or how much you've gotten done. The real question is much more personal, and you have to answer it every single day. How will you, today, tend your flame?